Welcome back, Virtual Circuit Riders, for our concluding segment of our course. I've enjoyed our journey, really, from Wesley to the world, and that's where we'll end our discussion with the worldwide church and some of the ways it points to our continuing task and the future task of making disciples of Jesus Christ to transform the world, which is, as I speak, the theme of the General Conference of 2012 in Tampa. One of the first day's proceedings was the unveiling of the Quadrennial Study Commission, the Committee to Study the Worldwide Nature of the Church. This is one of my colleagues, the Reverend Dr. June Suk Park, reporting on the committee under Bishop Scott Jones to look at ways to live into the reality of the worldwide church. We have been a worldwide church for 270 years, really, going back to Wesley's missionary work in that far-flung colony of Georgia. We go from Epworth to everywhere now, and the voices of the world church are challenging us to transform and to live out Wesley's call, the mission call, to spread scriptural holiness and to reform the nations, beginning with the churches. And this is really our perennial call on how to live into this and how to make structurally, institutionally, the reality of our Methodist connectionalism under a unified vision and unified mission that stretches throughout the world. This is really the challenge, and this is the final piece, really, the piece that you will have to work on really as your own missional leadership task, is to help your local churches understand their place in a global church, a global village with a common purpose. And these are the growing edges, really, that I speak about in this final piece here. We talk about the malaise, the polarization that we experience in American United Methodism. Methodism is a part of Christianity's global shift from the West to the non-Western world in terms of strength of numbers, and United Methodism certainly sees this with the growth in Africa and the Philippines, and for the first time 39% of delegates to the General Conference are from the central conferences, that structural pattern that links the non-Western, non-American conferences to the General Conference, with delegates 39% and growing. So the challenge will be how to balance local polarizations in the U.S. at church-wide level, conference level, General Conference level, with the growing voices for the need for more voice from our connectional and even our ecumenical partners around the world. So a type of glocalization will be a part of your ministry, looking at the Wesleyan heritage and its local forms in our local churches, responsive to changes in our own local cultural ideals and self-identity, in some cases polarizations, but integrating that with a global vision, a glocal vision, both local and global, to translate Methodism, to translate what it means to make disciples, to spread scriptural holiness, and to reform the nations, beginning with the churches. That is a translation project that you will be a part of as your leadership, to write new chapters in our shared history. And so in many ways you've read and learned digitally as virtual circuit riders about our shared history, and in some cases our divergences, but it's your time to write new chapters of our shared history as Christianity and Methodism learns to live in some ways no longer as a dominant center of American culture in our first almost 2 centuries, to minority status in American culture, it pushes us to think of ourselves as missional leaders to help our churches move from maintenance and membership, which some have read the call to action report as simply a way to maintain structures. But if we move from the parish is my world, maintenance and membership, to the world is not only our parish, but the world is already in our parish, and to seek ways of building a new witness to God's kingdom coming and the transforming love of all creation, we too can live into our worldwide calling wherever in the world we find our parish. And this will be one of your tasks as a leader for the future. We mentioned in one of our earlier segments the historic place of Mount Olivet Cemetery in western Baltimore. Mount Olivet being the burial place, the final burial place after 2 moves of Bishop Francis Asbury. Others such as John Emery, for whom Emory University is named, Enoch George, Beverly Waugh. Also, in an ironic move, Robert Strawbridge is buried there. And if we look at these 2 monuments, Robert Strawbridge and Francis Asbury, who as missionaries sent to America, in the case of Francis Asbury and a lay pastor, Robert Strawbridge, who were often at odds with one another, fighting over the right, in the case of Robert Strawbridge, the right to celebrate the sacraments, which was resisted by Francis Asbury. These 2 were at loggerheads throughout their lives and represented a kind of early polarization on a theological and cultural issue in early American Methodism. And for all their struggle and political maneuvering, they are buried in the same cemetery and very close to one another. Symbolic, too, of the polarizations that have animated us as Methodists, Episcopal Methodists, with a divergence of views on a host of issues. No matter what the polarization, it is allotted to each of us to die, and these polarized wings are symbolic here, coming together in a final resting place, that even in all of our differences, the various factions and caucuses and political parties within the present-day United Methodism, our future through death and resurrection is a common one through faith, and we must learn to live together and live out our United Methodist best practices together across our differences in life, lest we as a movement will be buried with both factions being buried together with multiple monuments to polarizations that we could not find reconciliation with under Christ. I think this is a cautionary vision of a future. Hopefully we will have a future of continued vitality, if not large nationwide significance. Perhaps we will go forward to be a monument to God's reconciliation, that perfect strength is revealed in weakness. Remember, in keeping with the burial theme, in Mount Olivet Cemetery you have the great leaders of all the various periods, even including the great missionary E. Stanley Jones and the historian Jesse Lee, Robert Strawbridge, Asbury, and numbers of bishops who focus upon us, our great heritage, but also call us with this bishop's lot and the time capsule buried there in 1966 to think about our place as leaders within the stream, within the great river of Methodism, within a tradition that has a future. Do we have a future? With the 1966 burial of time capsule of various mementos and historical artifacts in the bishop's lot, to be opened in 2066, it is a humbling referendum upon our church. Will we be buried as a church within the next 50 or so years until the time capsule comes? If we do not find unity across our differences in a united Methodism that really lives into its united and its worldwide name, will we have a dead movement buried together with multiple monuments to the right and the left, the conservative, the progressive, the national and the connectional and the international? Will there be United Methodists or Wesleyans of our larger family found in 2066 to open the capsule and to celebrate the witness of Methodism continuing to spread scriptural holiness and to transform the nations, beginning with the churches? Your leadership, your ministry, your churches that you serve will determine whether we have a buried movement or we have resurrection. The bishop's lot here in this picture in 08, looking very shabby and run down and falling apart, and yet someone came and tended to it and painted it and renewed the lot, tending and mending the grounds around which the time capsule is buried. And this is a metaphor for all of us. What future shall we have? One of renewal, tending, mending our denomination for the transformation of the world around us? Or shall we be found buried, dead, because of our differences in a world that desperately needs to hear good news? So we look out upon the future. What is our future? Is it to be in a cemetery? Or shall we have another time capsule with the promise in 2066 of another 100 years or more of faithful witness? Your ministry will either bury the movement or be a part of its renewal and its recreation through the power of God, through Jesus Christ in the hearts of Methodists of whatever name and wherever in the world we call our parish. I pray that there will be others of you, if not buried in the bishop's lot in Mount Olivet, will be buried with faithfulness as a leader who carried on the tradition and ensured that Methodism was not buried but was resurrected and renewed for the sake of the transformation of the world in your generation. Thanks be to God for your ministry and for our time together. So I say to you once and finally, farewell, virtual circuit riders. May you ride your circuit with grace, whether that is in the vital world of ministry or in the virtual world. May you be a witness to the great tradition, and may you be a promise of the future of new circuits to be ridden and to be served for the sake of Jesus Christ.